Alright, hello everybody and welcome to SCL Canyon Endurance Premiership Playday 6. As we jump back in game now, we are 8 minutes away from the start of the Open League match, which is going to be the match that is going to start off this night of action. This match is going to be super important for the top 5 teams of the Open League, as only 4 of them will have a chance to qualify for the consolidation final and have a chance to advance further in the tournament. Let's actually take a look at the Open League standings. Oh, sorry, wrong scene. There we go. Sorry about that. So here are the Open League standings after Playday 5. Team AD Racing lead the field with 176 points, 16 points clear of the first Smurf team on 160. Smurf from Team 2 then follows in 3rd place on 130 points, and Twister Eagles follows then in 4th place on 112. Then just behind is Smurf from Team 3 on 106. They are going to be looking to set up a challenge against Twister Eagles and deny them their consolidation final spot. Smurf from Team 4 then follows on 61 points in P6. Then Smells Like Keith Richards in P16, and the other 2 teams listed, but unfortunately got kicked out of the tournament for multiple no-shows. Propels with 7 points in 8th place, and Nadeo with a virgin score. So, hello Lex, hello everyone who just joined in to this SCL broadcast. Of course, this is going to be a bit of a special one for me, since S, unfortunately, will be, did a charity stream and is a little bit ill, so she's recovering from that. I wish her a speedy recovery, and I'll be taking on to the casting duties instead. So, we're going to be playing on Kaleidoscope, arguably the most technical map of this group stage pack so far, and one of the longer maps, erring towards the longer side of the SCL maps. A map made by Lars, with the overall lap record held by Mebe from Hype Boys with a 102.645, and the Open League lap record held by AD Racing's very own Sneaky with a 103.496. So this is Sneaky's teammate Fat Kid, which will be racing tonight. Let's actually get a quick look at who's joined so far. So for Team Smurf 1, we got Broccoli, who actually contested in last week's race and came home in 3rd place, just behind Sora and Sneaky. Last week's place played on Indeterminacy, which we'll be suing later for the Open League race. Then for Team Smurf 3, we got Zolida Zehond, who's going to be partnering up with Thor H62 instead of me. I had decided to skip that particular playdate in order to cast it instead, since yeah, I wasn't really feeling confident about the map. But that's a bit of an aside. For the other teammate of Smurf 1, we've got Jasper, who also drove last week on Indeterminacy. Hello Maxi, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Then moving on from the onto the other contestants. So we've already seen Fat Kid from Team AD Racing. They're by far the favorite to book their spot on the consolidation final, but maybe they could be denied their top place in the Open League standings by the first Smurf team comprised of Broccoli and Jasper. Then we get a look at one of the Twister Eagle players with Iconics and his iconic Porsche 911. So one of his teammates should join shortly. In fact, there he is. It is Sora in the modified Corvette. 2 players who actually played last week. Sora coming home the winner of the Playday 5 Open League race on Indeterminacy. Then moving down, we also got Manolico, who's actually here as a spectator. I'm pretty sure he won't be driving. Otherwise, yeah, we also got Ibo from Smurfin Team 4, or Smurfin Team 2x2. Administrator of Mania Exchange, of course, and yeah, he was going to be looking to score some points in order to tail the to give a good tail to the campaign of that particular Smurf team. Then we got the team Smells Like Keith Richards, who actually played also last week, with Brick Rider being the only finisher, and Beef also in there. Not sure if he has actually scored 2 DNFs in 2 weeks. Let's hope that 3rd time is the charm for him, and he will be able to score points. Then we go back to the Smurf teams with Black Shadow playing for Team Smurf 2 alongside well, I guess alongside, we'll see if one of his other teammates joins. Oh, also for Smurfing Team 4, we got Lex, who was actually a stand-in for Akile, who was supposed to drive this map. Unfortunately, Akile could not do it, so it is Lex's duty to drive. He's going to be doing his second driving stint in 2 weeks after competing on Indeterminacy and finishing actually in front of Brick Rider. So, we are less than 3 minutes away from the start, so this map is among some of the most technical. It has a lot of tricky transitions, especially tricky jump transitions that it is absolutely paramount to get right in order to actually go through the map, and one single mistake can lead to some very punishing respawns. So, let's see if anyone else joined throughout the field. Especially that jump start. You can see that jumping transition at the start. You can see that Lex failed it, and the respawn is all the way at the multi-lap, so you can lose easily 3 to 4 seconds alone with that single respawn. So, moving on to the leaderboard. Yeah, Manu playing for Smurfin 1, or actually just a spectator. I think it was Procoli and Jasper, as I said it. We'll have to be decided since all 3 players are there. So, here is Sneaky, who had a bit of a troubled race during Indeterminacy, but still managed to come home second, keeping the lead for Team AD Racing, despite racing on his own without any teammates whatsoever during that particular Playday. It was last week on the 19th of May. Sneaky managed to come home a good second and grab 21 valuable points that allowed the team to remain in at the top of the Open League standings. Just checking seeing if there is anyone else from the driving field who are joining today, because there are still a few people missing. I haven't seen any teammate for Black Shadow. So, Thor H62, who actually played in the first... Actually, in the first 3 Playdays, actually. In the first 2 Playdays, actually. Playday 1 and Playday 2 of the group stage, as well as during the qualification runs. Pretty solid player overall. It was a pleasure to have as my teammate, and the same goes for Solida Zeehond, or Zed Smurf here for Team 3. Really super consistent. So, we are just 10 seconds away from the top of the hour, which is when we're supposed to start, although there are still a couple people missing. And we're actually going to be watching the POV of Sneaky, the record holder on the Open League, the lap record holder on the Open League for this particular map for the start. This is set to be a pivotal race for most of these teams, as I said earlier, as this may be the final chance, especially for Team Smurfin 3 and Twister Eagles, to book their spot into the consolidation final and try to advance further in the tournament as a result. Again, here is a look at the map card. So, Kaleidoscope by Lars with a 102.645 for the overall lap record by Mebe12, and Open League record from Sneaky with a 103.496. And again, here is the Open League standings. AD Racing first on 176, followed by Smurfin teams 1 and 2, who are both 30 points apart. And Twister Eagles is currently on the last spot on the bubble of getting that consolidation final spot. So, as we go back in game, we should be getting into action fairly briefly here. We're just waiting for confirmation and for an eventual map restart to get the warm-up underway. Also, sorry for the lack of talking at some points. I'm just trying to find whether or not people are actually joining, and I'll try to be focusing on concentrating. Now, with the particularly tricky nature of this map, mistakes are going to happen. It's actually going to be happening on the, wherever it's going to be, at the top or the bottom of the field, all the way around. I expect mistakes to happen, and I'm going to try to gather them as best as I can. Hello, Hassa. I hope I'm going to be able to do you proud for this broadcast. Wish me luck. Alright, everyone seems to be ready. Except for Black Shadow. Which is quite amusing. Anyways, we are set to begin pretty shortly now. A Sneaky falls into the water below the map. Good luck to everyone. May the best one win. Some last minute advice from Manu to his teammates. And here we go. We got one warm-up round and then it is live. So as I said for the start, we're actually going to be following Sneaky, record holder for this map in the Open League, second in the Playday 5 match on Indeterminacy. So here is the start, then going on to this downhill section here, into the jump transition, into the part that will be subject to the jump transition. This turn is full speed, then banked drift turn, following on to another banked left-hander, which then goes right into the right-hander. You gotta really throw the car, and then the corner extends forever and ever until you get to that downhill part, and then the uphill left-hander following on to a big U-turn where it is possible to maul a little bit of that ramp on the inside of the apex, trying to get when you try to get on the attack. Another small transition. Third transition here, where it is really easy to actually undercook it and steer in too early and actually bump the ramp side. Then a little bit of a hill transition. And onto the final part of the course, which then starts with this tight off-road section, so to speak. And then the final few chicanes. And the last two turns with this long right-hander onto the start-finish straights. And with the little jump here, going back for a full lap. Thank you, Wolfie Line, for the follow, man. And here we go, guys. Warm-up is over. 24 laps of Kaleidoscope Open League match is now underway, as we follow Sneaky for the first couple laps. Everybody getting nice and tidy, but Pick Shadow actually getting a really bad start. He actually clobbered the wall and will be dropping way back at the pack. Solida Zeyong taking an early lead, but battling with Miss and Jasper. Miss is actually driving for Team 2. That kind of occurred to me. Sneaky now taking the lead as we head into CP3 or 4 now. Onto the uphill left-hander, now into the drift U-turn. Broccoli now taking the lead from Sneaky. Sneaky trying to get onto wheels, gets a much better exit. Broccoli still retaining the lead by just the tiniest of margins. Second place for Sneaky, as we are actually going to follow with the man behind, Miss. Nicely negotiated a transition onto this banked part. Closely following Sneaky. Sneaky with a bit of a different line there. Still manages to keep speed up. Fat Kid now overtaking Miss for P3. Sneaky making a big mistake there. Sneaky has made a huge mistake and drops down the order. He's down into P9. Even worse, P11. So the first lap is now completed, and it is Fat Kid in front of Miss, Furkoli, Jasper, and Zehon for the top 5. Sora, Pink Shadow, Aibo, Iconics, and Thor H62 complete the top 10. Lex in 11th, Sneaky 12th, Beef and Brick Rider complete the field. As we're actually going to follow with Pink Shadow now, who's trying to recover after that poor start he made. Now fighting with Sora, trying to overtake him for P6, trying to close the gap. Really unfortunate start from Pig Shadow. We actually saw it in the ghost there, clipping the wall on the inside of the start turn. And yeah, that's pretty much, that wall really bites if you manage to catch it. Let's actually follow some of the other drivers in the field. So we got Aibo currently evolving in 8th place behind Pig Shadow, trying to catch the fellow Smurf driver. Actually, Pink Shadow with a bit of, Pink Shadow overtaking Broccoli? Yes, Broccoli's down in P7. What happened? Seems like it was not so good of a section for the Austrian driver. And Zeyhold actually making a huge blunder. Oh, sorry guys. Zeyhold make down the P8 now behind Aibo. He's going to try to claw that gap back, actually in P7 now. So there must have been other mistakes. As far as Smurf drivers goes, the highest place so far is Miss, actually, in P2, trying to keep Fat Kid in check. Last gap, 0.8 of a second on this last checkpoint. Now Fat Kid is going to try to really push and create the gap to make sure that he is actually safe in case there is a tiny mistake, like a little bump on the wall, or maybe a slight drift that wasn't really taken correctly. He's gonna make sure that he does everything he can to actually get himself safe and in first place. Meanwhile, Beef taking a really wide line and getting the lapped after only lap 3. The gap has really been widening to the other guys in the field. So we actually got a 1 second gap between Fat Kid and Mist, and another 4 seconds now between Sora and Fat Kid. Let's actually follow Sora for a bit. Sora has actually overtaken Broccoli for P2. The gaps keep changing. This is really hard to follow, guys. Sorry if I do tend to miss some of the drivers. So right now it's Fat Kid, Sora, Broccoli, and Pink Shadow battling together for P3, and Zehon trying to catch up in P5. A lot of mistakes being made in the first 3 laps of this race. He's with a rather shaked up grid order, and Sneaky currently in P8. That's not really going to serve Team AD well, especially if the first Smurf team manages to get more points than AD's. Currently, Jasper in 7th and Broccoli in 3rd. But with the lead from Fat Kid, that could actually be negating all the advantage that position advantage that the Smurf Team 1 has. Actually, Jasper being overtaken by Sneaky for P7. Now, let's actually follow on with Miss in P4, who actually had a little bit of a different corner there. Loses a lot of speed, gets overtaken by Jasper from Team 1. Miss down in P5, Jasper making a mistake as well. Dropping down to P9 as we follow Ibo now. Trying to run a slow and steady race. As I said, many mistakes can happen on this map, and usually do. These mistakes happen. Sneaky actually having made another mistake as well, drops 2 places behind Miss, and Pink Shadow for P7, drops down to P7. Already trying to claw that gap back to Black Shadow, or Pink Shadow, sorry, into the U-turn, and that's the overtake done. Is he gonna make it stick? Yes, P6 for Sneaky, but Pink Shadow is actually waiting to pounce behind. So let's actually follow Thor for a little bit. We haven't seen a lot of Thor action here. Sitting in P9, still having visual contact with Ibo in front. Ibo himself has contact with Pink Shadow in front, so this is going to be interesting to see how that battle plays out and how Thor can claw his way back through the field. Let's actually now follow Solida Zehond, being a little bit gapped by the lead group. Sora now 2.1 seconds and 2.4 seconds even ahead of Zehond. But Zehon just 1 second in front of Sneaky. In fact, Sneaky actually catching up pretty quickly. Back up to P5. He's going to try to get those vital points for 4th place. As we go on to Broccoli, who's actually in a battle with Fat Kid, keeping him honest, keeping him in check. Less than 3/10 between these two guys at the last checkpoint. It could all come down to one single corner, one single miss, one single line taken differently, one single mistake, and the lead could change at any point. Now, through the tight off-road section, onto the platform checkpoint, through the chicane, and making a mistake, turning in too early. Broccoli unfortunately loses a ton of time. Now Fat Kid has a little bit of air to breathe in. 2.8 seconds gap to Broccoli on the last checkpoint. Now it's widened to 3.8. Solida Zehon is going to come up on Broccoli shortly. In fact, there he is, having visual contact with his fellow Smurf driver. 1.4 seconds behind the Austrian driver. He's going to be motivated to catch that back up and get the points potentially for 2nd place, which would serve greatly the third Smurf team, sorry. As we go back to Sora. Sora now in P6, battling with Mist for P5. Those two guys are really close. Mist with a little bit more speed going into the corner. Onto the transition part. Both drivers take it perfectly. A bit of a timeline from Sora, gets much more speed through there, a much better exit, and he does the job. Up to P5 goes Sora, grabbing a few vital points for Twister Eagles. Now, as we go further through the field, we got Jasper overtaken by Thor, it seems. Now, Thor up to P7, Jasper down to P8, which is not going to serve Team 1 very well as this thing stands. So far, Fat Kid with P1 and Sneaky with P3 would guarantee the top spot of the Open League at the end of this Playday for AD Racing. As we follow further down the field, we got Aibo now taking a lap on Brick Rider, who unfortunately fails the jump and has to respawn. Battling with Sora for P10, or for P9 rather, sorry. Sora overtaking the American driver. We've seen very few mistakes so far from Aibo. He's one of the guys that actually drove consistently, but so does this man, Fat Kid, on his way to complete lap 8 and thus mark the third of the race passed. Through the chicane, onto the tight section, then onto the platform checkpoints. The right, then the left, where he actually touches the wall and loses a little bit of time to Broccoli. Let's actually check the gaps. Broccoli now down under 2 seconds. And here we go, start of lap 9, the third of the race through, 16 laps to go. So as of lap 9, we have Fat Kid 1.6 seconds in front of Broccoli, then comes Solida Zehon 5 seconds behind the leader in third, then Sneaky just 6/10 behind. Actually, let's go back to that battle. Sneaky coming closer and closer to Zehon by the minute, and looking set to actually take the place in the points for third. Meanwhile, as we check back through the field, miss 7 seconds down on the leader in P5, then a further 5 seconds, we find Thor and Jasper battling over 6th place. Then we got Pink Shadow and Sora, and Pink Shadow in P8, Sora in P9, and then completing the top 10 so far is Aibo. Econics in 11th, Lex in 12th, and 2 laps down already, we have Brick Rider, the remaining member of Smells Like Keith Richards, as it seems like for the third straight race, Beef will not finish. And as we see, Sneaky actually climbed a lot of time with a much better line there. As he goes through the jump, he does the overtake and makes it stick. Sneaky back up to P3. As we follow Fat Kid again for another lap. Through the drift U-turn. Is he going to clip a little bit the ramp? No, he gets it neat and tight. It really clean there through there. Now to the small jump onto the bank part. Then the third transition jump. Perfectly negotiated. Then onto the jump. And now to the final section of the course. Through the left. Okay, thanks Hafsa for the tip. Through the tight section. Onto the platform. And the final turn for Fat Kid to complete another lap and improving his PB with a 104.354. So now we're going to follow Sneaky a little bit here, as actually Broccoli made a mistake and dropped 2 places down to P4. We actually missed that, sorry. P4 for Broccoli, then losing valuable points for Team Smurf 1, and Smurf Team 3 actually has potentially the points for 2nd place up for grabs, but Zehon is going to have to resist to that man, Sneaky, the lap record holder for the Open League, and he catches inexorably to Zehon, clipping a little bit the ramp of the exit, but doesn't lose too much time. Zehon with a much better speed, much better momentum carriage here. Oh man, this is nip and tuck between these guys. Less than a 10th. Sneaky making the overtaking, making it stick. Now it's a 81-2. Oh, whoa, not so fast. Zehon putting a fight. Oh, making actually a mistake and not messing up his line. So yeah, that's gonna give the advantage to Sneaky once again. And yeah, Zehon down to P3, 8/10 behind Sneaky. So back to AD Racing 1-2. Now let's actually follow Sora, one of the more interesting battles unfolding, of course, as I said in the beginning of the podcast, is the Twister Eagles versus Team Smurf 3. Currently, Twister Eagles is in 4th place in the standings with 112 points. Team Smurf 3 is 5th, just behind them with 106. So, just a 7 points gap between them. Just 7 points needs to be scored by Team 3 to actually pip Twister Eagles for the consolidation final. Man, I'm sorry for the speech, for the sort of speech problem, guys. I'm just too excited to see this race. Anyway, as we go back to Sneaky now, driving a little bit of a lonely race, 5 seconds down on his teammates, and having a 2-second buffer to Zehon behind. He's going to try to be taking it steady and taking this race home along with his teammate for a clean sweep of 46 points if things stand that way. We're halfway through the race already. Fat Kid in front of Sneaky, Zehond, Miss, Procoli for the top 5, then Thor, Jasper, Pink Shadow, Sora, and Aibo for the top 10. Econics in 11th, Lex in 12th, and almost 3 laps down, Brick Rider is the last runner as Beef has already DNF'd. Thor improving his local record, a 105.353, and making a huge mistake in the lamppost. He's going to lose a lot of time and a lot of position, and actually loses position to Jasper in P7. And he's soon going to be under the menace of Pink Shadow. Pink Shadow does not have visual contact on it yet. He's 3 seconds down on Thor, but this is going to be an incentive for him to push. He's told that the gap has actually shrunk, sorry. Now to the other guys, we're actually following Econics in the modified portion on 11. Already lapped by the guys in front. He is the only guy being 1 lap down, as so far Lex and Brick Rider have more than 1 lap more than 1 lap late, sorry, on the board. Miss also overlapping Econics. Let's actually follow Miss for a little bit. Driving in P4, having a little bit of a lonely race. A 2-second gap between him and Zehond, and around a second of a buffer between him and Procoli. Procoli actually trying to catch up to Miss and overtake, I think, the former, and overtake the Smurf 2 driver for the benefit of Stream Smurf 1. Sorry. So, lap 14. Things tend to stay pretty clear and pretty straightforward for Fat Kid and Sneaky, who are still leading the field. 2.5 seconds between them, and 8 seconds over the best of the rest, which is currently Solida Zehond in P3, representing Team Smurf 3. This will be a great fillip for Team Smurf 3, for him to get the last podium place and the points that come with it. Through the final section now. Onto the platform checkpoint. Final chicane. Then the final right-hand turn. And he comes around to complete lap 14 and start lap number 15. 10 laps to go in this race. Let's actually follow a little bit further down the field with Pink Shadow actually not able to claw the gap back to Thor, despite the mistake from the former driver. He's actually 3 seconds down on Thor, and actually has a comfortable cushion to Sora in 9 seconds. Sora must not be feeling it here. Coming straight off his Playday 5 win, you would have thought that Twister Eagles would be on a roll, but it seems to be the complete opposite. And it looks like they would not be likely to score a spot in the consolidation final if things stand as they are, with Sora in P9 and Econics in 11th. Let's actually go back towards the head of the field, maybe? No, let's actually follow a battle here between Procoli and Miss. Procoli making a mistake! Double wall hit, which is actually gonna cost a lot of time for him and allow now Miss to get some breathing room. Now a gap of 3.5 seconds between Miss and Procoli. Miss must be thinking, "Hoof." He must be breathing a sigh of relief. Or sorry if I'm mispronouncing the genders here. Anyway, so Miss is in 4th, currently less than 2 seconds down on Yalmer, or Zolita Zehons from Team Smurf 3. Trying to claw that gap back. It seems to have stabilized around 1.7. We will have to see over the course of this lap. 1.9. Yeah, it seems that the gap is pretty stable, around the hovering around the 2-second mark. And we're already almost two-thirds of the way through this race. Fat Kid now coming around onto the last section of the course. This guy has not put a foot wrong. Maybe a couple of small wall touches here and there, but nothing big. And we're already attacking the last third of the Open League race. 8 laps to go. So Fat Kid's still in front. Sneaky actually caught up to his teammate and joined him. There he is. Visual contact for Sneaky on his teammate, which is actually going to give him the incentive to push. This is going to be an interesting inter-team battle. Through the U-turn, Sneaky with a much tidier line. Able to claw the gap and reduce it to around half a second. So yeah, there's not really much in it. Now to the final part. Fat Kid still leading, 8/10 in front of Sneaky. Fat Kid managing to pull the gap a little bit, but it's really marginal here. And they're really pulling away from the rest of the pack. Between Fat Kid and Solido Zahil, there is already a 9-second buffer, which is absolutely crazy. This is 3 checkpoints on this map. There you go. You can see the gaps here. 2 CPs behind Fat Kid and 9.1 seconds, 9.5 seconds even at the start of lap 18 for Yalmer. This is absolutely crazy. So Yalmer having a bit of a lonely race. He has a 2-second buffer between him and Miss. And Miss himself has a 5 to 6 second buffer actually between him and Broccoli. So the gaps have really widened. It seems like the field has settled down. No big battles brewing, except maybe for the intern team battle at 80 Racing between Fat Kid and Sneaky. Sneaky trying to claw the gap back. Now down to 7/10. Now down to even half a second. This could be set to be some interesting few laps of attack for these two guys. On to lap 19 now. Let's actually follow some of the other guys further down the pack. We've got Lex, who is now currently 3 laps down. And still rocking. He is still running. He's still going to collect some valuable points for Team Smurf 4, even though at this stage it will probably be the end of their SCL Season 5 campaign. But I will still have to dedicate this to Lex, as he has been really trying his best, and he's been making some real progress over the course of the last few weeks. So this one is for you, Lex. And the Team Twister Eagles, who were looking so good after Playday 5, seem to be completely crumbling, as Sora is now down in P10, 1 minute behind the leader, and Iconic's down in P11. A further 38 seconds down. This is looking to be pretty grim for their chance of continuing the CEP Season 5 journey. As we go back through, and we see Sneaky actually overtaking Fat Kid. Sneaky now taking the lead. Fat Kid trying to claw that back, as we actually see some people getting lapped. Fat Kid with a much better corner through there. Gets back into the lead, but the gap is still underneath 2/10. Sneaky with a much better momentum carrying here. A much wider exit through this corner, and he retakes the lead. Just 1/10 of a second. This is really nip and tuck between these guys. Through the bank turn, onto the transition. Fat Kid having a little bit more speed through there. Oh! Sorry guys, I don't wonder if it was a lag on my side or on his side, but Fat Kid's still in, now retaking the lead. 3/10 of a gap between him and Sneaky in P2. Let's actually follow the chaser here. Sneaky onto the final turn, completing the lap, and Fat Kid improving his personal best in the race with a 104.042, which is probably the fastest lap we've seen so far during this race. Sneaky's really looking racy here, trying to get as much momentum as he can, actually clawing the gap and actually bringing it down to 2/10. Still under 3/10 as we head into the final part of this race. We've got less than 4 laps to go, guys. Otherwise, in the field, the gaps are pretty well spaced out, as Zehon is 12 seconds behind the leader, and Miss is actually a further 4 seconds behind, just attacking the jump transition now. And Perkele completes the top 5, 25 seconds down on the leader. Perkele and Jasper, both in P5 and P6, unfortunately will not be able to pip P1 and P2, which are AD Racing right now, from the top spot of the Open League. Aibo actually currently getting lapped. So Aibo goes 1 lap down. And Sneaky taking the lead from Fat Kid. We haven't seen that. He was actually getting much better momentum through that bank turn, through that sort of bull section. And he takes the lead for less than 2/10 from Fat Kid. 3 laps to go. Sneaky getting really close to that apex there. Almost mauling that little lip here on the ramp, but still gets it really neat and tidy. Really great driving from this guy and from Fat Kid. Really great driving from both AD Racing drivers. Through the transition. Much better transition from Sneaky on the other side. Did not get as much airtime as Fat Kid, it seems. And yeah, it does show. 0.7 of a second the gap between Sneaky in P1 and Fat Kid chasing him. Thor down in P7. 2 seconds behind Jasper, trying to claw the gap. He's got visual contact on him. Through the U-turn. Onto the platform section. The gaps seem to have quite stabilized over the course of this race, so it looks as if the positions are going to stay as they stand from P3 downwards. But at the lead, with 2 laps to go, nothing is pretty certain. Sneaky still in the lead with 0.7 of a second the gap between him and Fat Kid in P2. Sneaky always really neat and tidy, really close to that ramp here. Gets a really nice apex through there. Lex, meanwhile, improving his time with a 1:12.253. Still worth noting that he's continuously improving. Meanwhile, Fat Kid chasing Sneaky, trying to find that little ounce of extra speed, trying to shave off the last few tenths to claw the gap back to his teammate. Still 0.7 as they head into the final section for the second to last time. 0.6 now. Half a second. Sneaky actually slowing down. This is the final lap, and Sneaky actually being overtaken by Fat Kid for the lead. Onto the bull section now. Fat Kid with a much wider line. Oh, this is really duking it out here. Sneaky with a much better momentum here through this corner. He will take the lead by just 19 thousandths of a second. Onto the U-turn. Sneaky not really nudging the ramp one bit. Already, well, he's neat and tidy through there. Sneaky in front of Fat Kid with less than 2/10 left. With half a lap to go. Fat Kid really close now, getting a much better transition, a little bit of air time. That's going to allow Sneaky through back once again. Sneaky into the lead with the final section of the course to go. Through the left. Through the right, now to the tight right section. Onto the platform checkpoints. Through the final turns. The final right-hander, and Sneaky is going to take Playday 6. Sneaky finishes first in front of Fat Kid. Then we're actually gonna wait for Yelmer or Zolida Zehon for Team Smurf 3 to come home in 3rd place and back some really crucial points for them as they are looking set to pip Twister Eagles for the 4th spot in the Open League standings and move on to the consolidation final on June 16th. There he is, Zolida Zehon P3, Miss in P4, Perkele coming round to finish in P5. There he is for Team Smurf 1. Now, moving on to Jasper. Finishing in 6th place. Thor H62 completing the Smurf 3 team, finishing in 7th. Pink Shadow attacking onto the final part of the course to come home in P8. There he goes through the final few corners. And Pink Shadow, or Black Shadow, P8. Aibo coming through the final section now as well. Set to look, finishing at P9. And now we move on to Sora, who's actually at the start of lap 24 and actually looking pretty slow through there. He must have had a mistake somewhere. And it's going to be a case of what might have been for Twister Eagles after coming in with a 6 points lead over Team Smurf 3 and looking set to actually continue to increase that gap after the form shown by Sora. It all unraveled for this team, and unfortunately their SCL journey is going to end there. So, Sora going onto the final section of the course with his teammate Iconics behind. Actually, Sora flipping over! Sora managing to flip over, and his teammate Iconics is going to overtake him to P10. Unbelievable scenes. As Sora looked set with a 5-second buffer, it seems as though his teammate is going to pip him or not, as they both make mistake, and Sora is going to overtake him back, it seems. In fact, no, they're probably going to stick together, one behind the other, and do a formation. Or perhaps Sora overtaking Iconics at the end. We'll see. Iconics will finish in 10th and Sora 11th. Unbelievable scenes at the end there. Then we will wait for the final few players to go through there. But it looks like with the current amount of time remaining, Lex might be set to be the final man finishing. It will actually depend on this pace though. With a 1:12 as his best and 2 minutes remaining, this looks to be pretty challenging. Now, it must be pointed out that in case someone DNFs or they don't manage to finish in time, if they complete at least 75% of the race, the points will be attributed. So, if one player finishes, for example, does 18 laps or more and then has a disconnect, or unfortunately can't make it to the finish because the timer runs out, then they will get 75% of the points they should have theoretically scored with the checkered flag finish. So we will be following Lex for the final minute and a half. With Brick Rider trying to unlap himself. Brick Rider looking set to complete the board, and Lex making a mistake as we speak. So it looks like he will not make it to the finish as he starts the 24th and final lap. Although he doesn't make it, he still... It is still worth noting that this guy has made incredible progress over the last few weeks for a Canyon beginner or neophyte, as I should say. So I would really give props to him for sticking through the competition. So, 35 seconds remaining as we're going to witness the last few turns of Lex before the match is set to be completed. "20 seconds remaining. This transition seems to be really tough to get, especially for a beginner. As we've seen plenty of mistakes here around, and even the best of them. Fat Kid lost the lead and the win with a little bit too much airtime compared to his teammate on that very transition. That's what really decided the race. So, here are the final standings then. Sneaky in front of Fat Kid, Zehond, Miss, Broccoli, Jasper, Thor, Pink Shadow, Aibo, and Iconics, your top 10. GG's to the Open League. So, what we're going to do here is we're going to take a quick break. We will be back in a few minutes with the updated Open League, with probably the Open League stats updated first, and then we will move on to Indeterminacy, which we see here, which will be the Premier League race. Stick around, be right back. Alright guys, we are back for the second match of this sixth play and final playday of CEP Season 5. And this is going to be another big one. This is the Premier League. This is the cream of the crop of the Canyon drivers here and there, ladies and gentlemen. So, with a new league comes new standings. So here is... Oh, sorry, again, switch scene, there you go. So here is the Premier League standings after Playday 5. High Boys leading with 170 points, just 5 points clear of Demise. There could still be some lead changing here at after the course of this race. So Hyperion then follows in third with 143 points, and Team Sun is currently looking safe and set to go through to the grand final with 118 points. Then the final 4 teams are no longer able to actually challenge the top 4 teams, so Hype Boys Academy, Velocity, Matt Cals, and Pempa Jabat will actually go through to the consolidation final no matter what. So these 4 teams will have to duke it out on June 16th with the top 4 of the Open League to get their place in the final, in the grand final, to duke it out with Hype Boys, Demise, Hyperion, and Team Sun. This is going to be the map that we're going to be playing tonight, Indeterminacy by Ratcho, perhaps one of the most flowy maps of this entire map pack. This is the easiest difficulty, as I found it, map of this particular group stage rotation. Map by Ratcho, as I said, and the overall lap record is held by Mebe once again with a 55.716. Alright, sorry, we're gonna have to take a quick break from the talk here. Be right back. Alright, so we are back. Sorry for that little interruption there. So, let's actually take a look at some of the players who are going to be playing for this. So, here is Mebe, the lap record holder for both the maps that we played tonight, Indeterminacy and Kaleidoscope, playing for the main Hype Boys team. Then here comes his teammate Taki, who's probably going to be sitting there as a spectator. And then we got Lawrence, who's going to be more than likely the racing teammate for Mebe and Hype Boys. Then we got the Academy Hype Boys team, comprised of South African player Black Dark and Dutch player Cloud, who's been really performing awesome in the last few Smurf Cups, actually winning the last 3 back-to-back Smurf Cups, 353, 354, which I've casted, and 355, which I decided to skip over to cast Playday 6. Then we got Team Velocity with Camo and Vinny, former Smurf member. Then we're also going to be waiting for the other player of Team Demise. We actually got one, the Boss, German player, who's going to be trying to claw some points out of the Hype Boys domination and potentially pip them for the top spot of the Premier League standings today. Then we got Lars from Team Sun, not running the Sun tag so far, but that's probably going to be expected for this race. Preling with Riolu, who's also streaming his POV. And then we got Quentin 43, sorry. French player for Team Hyperion, who's going to be probably driving tonight. And yes, so far these are all the players that we have. So we're actually going to be waiting for other people to join. We're actually going to miss someone. Voyager, one of the Mania Exchange and TMX admins playing for Team Demise this CEP. So, it is 8:45 Central European Time, and we are set to begin in a few minutes. We're actually just waiting for potential other players to join, as there seems to be someone missing for Team Hyperion as we currently speak. And it looks as though Matt Cows and Papa Blamjat will not be joining. And yeah, it seems as though my suspicion. So we will not be seeing any of the Matt Cows guys as we speak right now. Oh, John Boy actually is in there. I haven't seen him. So John Boy seems to be driving. And if we look through the scoreboard, he seems to be the only player I see. Yeah, so there's only going to be one player scoring for Team Matt Cows, which is going to be John Boy in this case. Mebe, meanwhile, improving his local record on the server with a 55.786, just 700ths away from his world record lap. Currently on Dedimania. Everybody seems to be ready, so we're gonna go on to a warm-up lap, and then the race will be live. Again, this is the map that we're gonna be driving, Indeterminacy by Ratcho, 55.716, the lap record by Mebe, one of the flowy maps once again of this entire group stage map pack. And we're actually going to follow Vinny for this particular round. We're waiting for confirmation of the start. Everybody getting themselves ready for the start of the Premier League race. And some potential shake-up in the top 3 standings, as I said, with only 5 points between the main Hype Boys team and the Demise team. So Mebe and Talk and Lawrence are gonna be looking to, well, as much points from Demise's Voyager and the Boss. So here is Indeterminacy by Ratcho, starting with turn 1, which is a big downhill right-hander. Moving on to turn 2, a small flick to the left. Moving on and then into turn 3, getting close to the apex. Then turn 4, a big U-turn. And turn 5, a pretty tight left-hander where it is easy to make mistakes, as you see Vinny do there. Then turn 6 through there. Turn 7 around the poles into the chicane. Then turn 8. And turn 9 with a left-hander going for a late apex. Then turn 10, tight section where it is also easy to overcook it. Turn 11, onto the checkpoint. Turn 12, uphill into turn 13 in the platform. Small mistake from Vinny there. Uphill, then into turn 14. A long, sweeping left-hander. Then onto a slalom section. Attacking onto the final part of the course with turn 15. And turn 16, which is a block mix turn, onto the dirt, where it is really easy to nip up on the inside and get yourself flying over. So this is a lap of Indeterminacy, as you saw it from Vinny, with a couple of mistakes. We're actually going to be following Mebe for this particular start. So here we go. The final match of Playday 6 and the group stage. Following Mebe for the start. Everybody getting away nice and tidy. Some people getting really close to the wall on the inside. Mebe getting the whole shot, just 9 thousandths in front of Quentin. Black Dog trying to put up a fight to his main team teammate. Mebe, Cloud, and Black Dog battling with each other. This feels like Smurf Cup all over again, for some reason. Mebe with a good late apex through there is going to be able to take the lead. 600s in front of Cloud. Now into the dirt U-turn. Mebe is going to try to pull as much of a gap as he can to the guys behind. Onto the platform U-turn now. 2 seconds of a gap between him and Riolu. Riolu actually battling with Cloud. Let's actually follow that. Riolu and Cloud battling for P2. Riolu with a much tighter exit here. Maybe able to take the challenge to Mebe onto the final turn. Mebe getting really close. And that's first lap done. So it's Mebe, Riolu, Cloud, Black Dark, Quentin 43, Lawrence, Camo, The Boss, and Lars. Boss and Lars for P9. John Boy completes the top 10. Then Voyager comes in 11th, and P12 is Vinny, already 4.5 seconds behind. Cloud and Riolu battling over P2. Riolu still having the advantage now. Trying to claw the gap back to Mebe, now under 3/10. Into turn 12 we go. Nicely negotiated entry by Riolu. Gets into 3/10 of a second from Mebe. Let's actually follow some of the other guys further down the field. We're following Camo right now, battling with Lawrence and trying to defend from The Boss as well. The Boss now overtaking him for P6. Camo down to P7, and The Boss on the roll, taking a Lawrence for P5, potentially. This is going to be closer to turn 3. Lawrence with a much better line, but Boss maybe with a bit more speed. Yeah, it looks as though Boss is going to keep P5 for now, but this is going to be really nip and tuck between these guys. Now let's follow Black Dark, who's actually closely following the top 3 battle and waiting for someone to flunder and make a mistake and potentially pick up the spoils. But so far, the order stays the same. Mebe in front of Riolu and Cloud. Further down the field, then we got Lars down in P10, battling with Voyager. Just 3/10 apart. On to the final turn. It is important to get a really good entry angle through there, as if you get a bit of a wrong placement and get a really shallow entry, it is possible to nip the inside and completely ruin your momentum if you manage to save it, or go for a horrible crash. Meanwhile, we got Quentin battling with Voyager. Quentin trying to defend from him. Quentin still remains in front by just 1/10. We're actually going to follow the chaser here. Voyager trying to get a good late apex through there, but Quentin does a really good job as well. Onto the dirt U-turn. Now the gap seems to have stabilized around 1.5 tenths. Voyager with a much better turn through there, but Quentin managed to get some momentum going. Now, as we go back towards the lead pack, we're following Cloud battling with Riolu once again for P2. Just less than 1/10 between these two guys. And Mebe, meanwhile, has a 1 second buffer between these two. Above these two. So, lap 5 of 24. It's still a little early to predict who's going to be really setting himself apart. Anything can happen in Trackmania, and it usually does, as we've seen in the previous race with unbelievable seats at the end for some of the later guys in the pack. And we've seen plenty of lead changes, actually, in the very first race, if you haven't seen it. So, now the gap seems to have widened a fair bit. 7/10 between Riolu and Cloud. Still 1 second between Riolu and Mebe, though. So, yeah, the gap seems to have somewhat widened. Let's actually go a bit further down, because Black Dark is trying to defend from The Boss. The Boss on the charge, trying to catch up and pick P4 from the South African driver. Black Dark with a little bit of a nip up here on the inside. That's going to cost him some time, and that's going to allow The Boss through to P4. There he goes. But Black Dog, with a much better sequence of corners, manages to claw back P4. This is going to be a really intense battle for some of the points from the other points-paying positions through there. Boss now going back in P4, a better late apex than Black Dog through there. Even catching up to Cloud, so you could be challenging for a podium spot right here. As we go further down the field, we are now following Voyager, battling with the second Hype Boys driver, Lawrence, for the benefit of P7. And we already see a trend with this. Oh, as Voyager makes a mistake there and is going to potentially lose a position to Lars. Lars coming back to within a second of him. 9/10 the gap now. So yeah, as I said, there's a little trend that seems to have been going on throughout the group stage, is that the Premier League pack is way tighter than the Open League pack. Open Leagues it seems that Open League players tend to make a lot more mistakes than the Premier League guys, which is kind of obvious when you think about it. So the gaps tend to spread out way more, and there's lapped cars, quick cars coming in way earlier compared to the Premier League, where here the gap between first and last is just 15 seconds. Currently, the last player is Vinny, trying to catch up to John Boy, who is so far 2.7 seconds up the road. And we're going to cut back to Black Dark, who actually lost out to the boss, and the boss actually has a little bit of a buffer now. 9/10 between him and Black Dark. Black Dark getting P5, and now under pressure from Camo, getting a much better speed through there. Let's see if Black Dark does the same mistake at the drift corner. No, he does not. He still keeps it neat and tidy. So, we're already almost a third of the way through the race. And so far, it is Mebe in front of Riolu in second place, then Cloud P3, Boss P4, and now Camo coming in P5 after Black Dark made a mistake. Black Dark down to P6, but looking to Cloud play P5 back. Then it's Lawrence in P7, Demise Voyager in P8, then Lars in P9, and completing the top 10 is Hyperion's Quentin 43, the only Hyperion player and the only French driver, it seems, on the roster driving so far. Quentin currently battling with Lars for the benefit of P9. Almost touching the wall here on the outside. We see Voyager do that, and that can be a real momentum killer through there. And we're actually going to go back to Black Dark as he tries to chase and catch Camo. Trying to claw back 5th position. Black Dark with a much more aggressive line than Camo through this corner, but it didn't pay out. Camo's still in front by 2/10. Down to late apex corner through there. Both guys keeping it really neat and tidy. Black Dark managing to catch a bit of ground before the U-turn on the dirt. Now into the uphill right-hander. Drifting onto the platform section. Who's gonna get it better? It seems both drivers are equal, with Black Dark having a slight edge. Less than a 10th now. It seems as though Black Dark might be set to make a move here. Let's see the trajectories. Black Dark going way wider through there, a much earlier apex than Camo, and that's how allows actually Camo through, although Black Dark is able to carry much better speed through there. At the end of lap 9, still Camo in front of Black Dark by a 10th of a second. The gaps seem to have fairly widened actually here, so 1.8 seconds between Mebe and Riolu, but between Mebe and Cloud, the third place driver, it's actually 4.6 seconds. So yeah, the gaps have really widened up between the top two and the rest of the pack, as we're going to be following Boss, who's going to try to catch up to Cloud and overtake him for the benefit of third place. Through the U-turn. Onto the slalom section. Just 3/10 separating Cloud from the Boss. Onto the final corner. Cloud getting really close, but still keeping it really nice and tidy through there. Camo getting a new personal best in there with a 56.375. Lars improving to a 56.855. Everybody, pretty much everybody, improving their personal bests here. Even Vinny, who actually has overtaken John Boy here. Vinny now up in 11th place. Vinny now with a new personal record of 56.684. It seems as though he doesn't have as much of an enjoyable race, well, in terms of result, at this point anyway, compared to his teammate Camo, who's currently sitting pretty in P5, although he is under pressure from Black Dark still. Black Dark really attacking through every corner, trying to find every inch he can shave off, and it seems as though he made a mistake and had to slow down. So that's going to be the gap widening to 7/10. That's going to give some room to breathe for Camo for the next lap. On to lap 12 then, as we're going to be following Riolu a little bit. So far the highest placed driver of the team Sun. With Lars currently in P9. They still look pretty set to retain a fairly decent sized gap to P5, which is currently 5 in the standings, which is Hype Boys Academy, and thus go on straight to the grand final, which will be played on the 23rd of June. As we are going to be following the Boss and Cloud now within 2/10 of each other through the U-turn. There are really good battles as we see in the live ranking. Black Dog overtaking Camo for P5. Camo seems to have made a mistake. The gap now of 4/10, even 1/10 now. Camo getting much better speed, but Black Dark having a way better exit, carrying much more momentum. And so we're halfway through the race. Mebe in front of 4.2 seconds in front of Ryolu. Then follows Cloud, 6.2 seconds down on the leader. Then Boss, 6.4 seconds behind. One of the ongoing battles for third place. Then we got Black Dark with 8.6 seconds behind the leader. Battling with Camo, 8.8 seconds behind. Quentin 43 follows in 7th place, currently battling with Lawrence. Then we got Voyager, 12.9 seconds down on the leader in P9, and completing the top 10 is Lars, 13 or even 14 seconds behind the leader. Vinny follows in 11th, 19 seconds behind Mebe, and John Boy closes the pack, 23 seconds down. So the Boss still battling with Cloud right here. Much tighter corner from the Boss. Cloud getting way up high on the back corner before the final turn. The current lap times so far seem to be hovering in the mid to low 56 range. We've seen a high 55 during the warm-up, and the Boss making a huge mistake, losing a lot of time, and that's going to be Black Dark past, and potentially Camo through there. Yeah, there we go. Down from P4 to P6 in just an instant, just like that, with the snap of the finger. So Black Dark moving up to P4 now. He's going to have to look at a 2-second buffer for him to completely evaporate to catch his teammate Cloud. Then 7/10 further back, we've got Camo back up to P5, following the mistake of the Boss, who's actually waiting to pounce, having clawed the gap back to Camo. And that's going to be a difference of line here on the corners. The Boss getting a little bit higher than Camo through there, maybe allowing to get a bit more momentum onto the final turn. Black Dog making a huge mistake, actually. Black Dog losing a lot of position. That's going to be dropping him to P8 and even P9 if Voyager gets in the mix. Yeah, Voyager is actually clawing some substantial time. Huge blunder from Black Dark, who goes down from P4 to P8 after a huge mistake, and Voyager also making a mistake, allowing Lars to claw back some time and get underneath the second, even 4/10 of a second, actually, the gap between Voyager and Lars. But meanwhile, out in front, Mebe hasn't put a foot wrong. He is leading the race by 3.9 seconds from Ryolu, and it looks as though this guy is going to be unbeatable throughout this race, as we're going to follow him for the final part of this lap. Gets it really neat and tidy through this corner onto lap 16. So we're seeing Camo battling with the Boss. The Boss now up to P4, Camo in P5. Cloud having a safe buffer between him and the Boss, not to be worried. 4-second gap between the two drivers, and his only focus will be now to catch Ryolu and potentially overtaking for second place. There was a 2-second buffer for him, but given the pace of this guy, he could potentially do it. Meanwhile, in P9 and P10, we got Voyager against Lars, with Black Dark further up ahead. Lars trying to get the benefit of P9 and potentially P8 if Black Dark makes another mistake. Through the U-turn, onto the uphill right-hander. Drifting onto the platform. A much worse line here from Lars, who actually had to lift potentially, so he drops a little bit of time to Voyager, who takes the opportunity to claw some time back and reduce the gap to Black Dark. Black Dark always going way up high in the line, so does Voyager to get much more momentum going through the final third turn. This proved to be the bane of the existence of Black Dark. He gets through this time, and we're now 2/3 of the way through the race, 8 laps to go. As we go back towards P4 and P5, Camo and the Boss still battling it out. Camo chasing and potentially getting some, a few more vital points for Team Velocity through here. Now remember, Hype Boys and Demise are still battling for the lead of the Open League, even though it looks pretty set at the moment with the position and the pace of Mebe. And so we have Demise in second, Team Sun in fourth, and Hyperion in third, although Hyperion might be a little bit more at risk. Risk of being bumped from P3 by Team Sun, with Riolo currently in second, and Quentin currently dropping down to 7th, sorry, after Lawrence overtaking him. Quentin must have made a mistake through there. We actually didn't see him on the camera. But yeah, Quentin down to P7. Black Dark must really be kicking himself over the silly mistake that he did at the final corner that dropped him from P4 to P8 in the blink of an eye. And now he's going to be trying to claw some of that, to repay some of that, and try to catch a few positions and get a few points at least for the Hype Boys Academy team. Meanwhile, the most interesting battle, we've seen actually a mistake from Camo, who dropped down to P6 and got overtaken by Lawrence, and so he's going to be trying to get that gap back and overtake him once again to get back into the top 5. Camo going through the final corner, moving on to lap 19 now, in P6. Now, for those of you who joined midway, the top 4 of this Premier League top 4 of the Premier League standings, sorry, after this race will move on straight to the Grand Final, which will be played on June 23rd, so in 4 weeks' time, whilst the bottom 4 will be contending the Consolidation Final and try to get their spot at the Grand Final on June 16th, which is going to be 1 week earlier. Quentin overtaking Camo for P7. Camo trying to keep the fight. Seems to be losing some pace after the mistake he did that allowed Lawrence to go through up to P5. Much better line from Camo through there. Overtakes Quentin for P6. Now onto the final corner. Quentin with a much better momentum here. He's going to be able to challenge Camo into T1. And even a little bit further beyond, now into T3. Who's going to get it? It seems as though Quentin has a bit of an advantage. Now into T5, which is a bit of a tricky section through there. They both go through neat and tidy. Camo with a much tighter line on the exit, but it doesn't really pay out. Quentin now up to P6 with less than a tenth of a gap between him and Camo from Velocity. As we move back up through the field, so we're now following Quentin 43 now up in P6, chasing Lawrence for P5. This could be actually pretty important for him to get the points for P5 to avoid his team, Hyperion, being bumped from P3 by Team Sun, currently sitting in P4, and having Riolu in second place, albeit 4.9 seconds down on this man, Mebe12, leader of this race since lap 1. Record holder of this map and of the previous map we played in so Indeterminacy, this map and the previous map we played, which is Kaleidoscope by Lars. Actually, with less than 4 laps to go now, as we're actually going to switch back over to Quentin and Lawrence. 0.6 of a second, the gap between these guys. Quentin trying to get closer and closer to the Finnish driver. Onto the dirt U-turn. Much tighter line from Quentin. Onto the platform drifts. Platform U-turn next. And now to the slalom section, we'll see the gaps. 0.3 of a second, so yeah, Quentin is really working his way to try and get back up the rankings and potentially grab the points for 6th place. Quentin go through the final corner, following Lawrence and starting lap 22. 3 laps to go in this race. The gap is still fairly wide, the gap is still fairly close between these guys. Black Dark is too far away to challenge Quentin for now, so Quentin is safe at the moment. Then we got Voyager down in P8, 20 seconds down on the leader. Then 3 to 4 seconds back, we actually got Lars from Team Sun. And Vinny has come up to P10. And Camo actually standing still. And by the sound of the engine, it seems as though he had a disconnect, so that's really unfortunate for him and for Team Velocity. He looked to be pretty set to score some big points after hanging around in the top 5, and it seems as though it all unraveled for him, and for Team Velocity. So all the hopes of scoring any points remain on Vinny, who is currently sitting in P10, 30.2 seconds down on Mebe. We already entered the second to last lap in this race. People improving their PBs, as we currently see in the chat. And the pace staying fairly consistent for the guys that tend to really not put a foot wrong, which is in the mid to low 56, as we stated previously. And we're now going to cut back to Lawrence and Hyperion's Quentin, because Quentin actually overtook Lawrence and benefited to P5. And we actually see Black Dark tumbling down to P9. He must have made another mistake again and actually potentially had a respawn. He's way down the order now. Really unfortunate for the South African driver, who looked really strong in the early stages of the race, and unfortunately it seems that pressure got the better of him with a couple mistakes costing dearly to him and the Hype Boys Academy team. Speaking of which, Cloud is still sitting pretty, having a little bit of a lonely race through here. 5 seconds down on Riolu, but 4 seconds up on the boss, currently sitting in P4. Then Lawrence and Quentin battling over P5. Lawrence repassing Quentin on there with a final lap of the race. And less than a half a lap to go for Mebe, which we're going to rejoin right now as he goes through the final section of the course. Through the platform U-turn. Onto the slalom section. Right and then left. Setting up onto the dirt U-turn here. Onto the platform. Mebe going really high to carry as much momentum as possible. Onto the block mixed final corner into the dirt. Gets it really neat and tidy, and Mebe is going to take the win for Premier League. So Mebe 12 with a 28.950 takes the win. Riolu finishes second for Team Sun. Then 5 seconds behind, we got Cloud, who actually responds, and potentially that could allow the boss through. That's going to be tight. Through the final corner, Cloud is going to take P3. The boss will finish in P4 for Demise. Lawrence will finish P5 for the main Hype Boys team, in front of Quentin finishing P6. Then Voyager will finish in 7th place, followed then by Lars going to the final corner now. P9 is now Black Dark, who must be kicking over himself with the mistakes that he made. And we're now waiting for the next player to finish, which is John Boy, attacking the final part of the course right now. Onto the slalom section. Onto the drift U-turn. Not going as wide as early as Mebe did. Onto the final corner. Keeps it safe and finishes in P10. Vinny also going onto the final part of the course and glitches P11, and unfortunately it seems as though Camo might have had a disconnect, so that is pretty much it for Team Velocity. They will not be scoring any more points. That was really a shame for these guys who looked really solid. For these guys who looked really solid, especially Camo throughout the early stages of the race, and unfortunately had a disconnect. So GG's everyone. So we will be back shortly after a few minutes, as I will be updating the scoreboards for the overall rankings, and we will be right back for a little bit of a debrief of this particular play day. Be right back, hang tight. Alright, and we're back. Sorry guys for the scene switching. It was me typing on the numpad while I was forgetting that the numpad was hotkey to the scene switching. I'm really sorry for that. So, anyway, so this has been Playday 6 of SCL CEP Season 5 Group Stage, the final Playday, and we already have some of the standings. The standings have actually been updated. We're just going to see which ones we're actually going to go through first. Okay, there we go. So, we're actually going to start off with the Premier League standings after Playday 6 and not Playday 5. So Hype Boys finishes top of the standings with 195 points. Then we got Team Demise finishing a close second, just 4 points behind on 191 points. Then Team Hyperion finishes third with 155, and Team Sun with 139 points gets the fourth and final spot, grand final spot for fourth place. Sorry guys. P5 then comes Hype Boys Academy with 102 points. Team Velocity finishes 6th with 76 points, despite the non-finish from Camo. Then Matt Cows finishes 7th with 36 points, and Pampa Jabat finishes 8th with 32 points, which is actually the team from Lawrence and not Hype Boys. I'm really sorry about that little inconsistency through there. And as we're going to switch now to the Open League standings, so Team 80 Racing, the clear winner here with 222 points. Then comes Team Smurfin 1 with 186 points, 155 points. Then comes Team Smurfin 2 in third place, and with that impressive performance from Yamler in P3, Team Smurfin 3 manages to pit Twister Eagles for P4 and goes through to the consolidation final with 134 points and fourth place. Then comes Twister Eagles at 125 points. It's a case of what might have been for this team and their chances in CEP. Now they've all been crushed and they are now going home. So Twister Eagles P5 with 125 points. Smurfin Team 4 finishes 6th with 72 points. And then Team Smells Like Keith Richards only scored 2 points in this race and finishes last of the regular scorers in P7 with 18 points. Team Propels and Natio Hunters have been excluded from the tournament, despite them being listed for multiple no-shows during this particular competition. So, AD Racing, Smurfing Teams 1, 2, and 3 will duke it out against Hype Boys Academy, Velocity, Pampa Jabat, and Matt Cows for the last 4 spots up for grabs for the grand final. The consolidation final is going to be played on June 16th on an entirely new map pack with maps being played back to back. This is going to be an interesting format. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining us for the final Playday of SCL CEP Season 5. I'm going to get over there. So, again, thank you for watching. This was a bit of an emergency stream since S was unfortunately ill after she made her charity stream, so I was happy to fill the duty of casting for her. Anyways, thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you all next time. Godspeed, people!